Unmarried couple with a big income gap buying a house, how to fairly split ownership?
TLDR: How to fairly split house ownership in a couple with a big income difference. I'm 30M, in the process of buying a house together with my girlfriend, 25F. We are unmarried and are not registered officially in any way, although she is pregnant with our first daughter. We don't ever plan on getting married but do consider ourselves to be a family. I work as a software engineer and my girlfriend had some temporary jobs working as a hotel receptionist but is currently on maternity leave and doesn't have a job to return to afterwards. The plan is that she will look for a part-time job once she's ready. Over the years together I've earned 4 times as much as she did and always paid most of the rent and any bills we had, while she paid what she could for groceries and general expenses. Now the topic of house ownership has come up since we plan to take a mortgage together. I am contemplating as to what would be the moral, fair thing to do to split it between us. Right now my opinion is that we should each own a share in the house that is relative to the amount of mortgage we pay each month, so if I pay 80% of the mortgage I would own 80% of the house. She thinks that it's unfair and that ideally the house should be split 50-50 no matter how much any one of us pays. I think that as long as we're together we both own the house and live in it, but in case we ever split up the house should end up belonging to the person who paid for it. This issue is creating quite a bit of tension between us and I would love some help on how to settle it fairly for both sides. Honestly, if you have a kid together and are buying a house together and plan on being a family long term, you probably should get married. Not only are there significant tax advantages, but if you do split up for whatever reason there are built-in arrangements via the divorce process to untangle your lives. On top of that, there are protections so that if she goes into the hospital that her family can't block you from seeing her. You don't need a $30,000 extravaganza. Just do it at the courthouse. Honestly, it really just sounds like this guy doesn't actually understand the impact being a mother will have on his GF's income potential. It's permanently and dramatically reduced just by her being pregnant. He sounds like he wants to be able to wash his hands completely if they break up despite her sacrificing both her body and her future income for him. It also really bugs me that he's preparing so hard for a breakup, as if he's expecting one. He shouldn't have had a kid with her and shouldn't be planning to buy a house together if they're not in it for the long run, in which case it's only fair to her to get married. This guy's also forgetting a big thing in the case of a breakup: child support and custody. Unmarried mothers automatically have sole custody in the Netherlands, which is where they are. In the event of a breakup, while he wouldn't have to pay alimony, he would have to pay child support ample enough to ensure the kid's lifestyle stays the same. I hope she sees this thread because if I was her I wouldn't sign anything giving away those rights or splitting custody, not with how this guy's acting. Marriage would protect them both and make their lives a lot easier. Others are getting to the heart of the disagreement. OP is not considering additional contributions to the household outside financial. When you reach an agreement, below is a way to protect you both legally. You should be using a real estate attorney to buy the property. I know in some places it is optional, but it is always best. That attorney should be able to also write you a cohabitation agreement. This document is kind of like a prenup. It details how you will live together and split joint assets, etc. Source: My real estate attorney wrote our cohab agreement. Each party to a contract as important as a cohabitation agreement should obtain independent legal advice before signing. Without that simple, fairly inexpensive precaution, the agreement might not be worth the paper it was printed on. I personally would go to a lawyer specializing in family law for the agreement, especially since OP and their partner will have children. By the way, if OP is in Canada, which I suspect given the reference to maternity leave, they won't be able to get a mortgage if they don't use a lawyer, or in Quebec, a notary, to buy their house. If only there was a mechanism created by society and endorsed by the government that allowed two people to enter into a contractual relationship that provided for a way for them to acquire assets. Then they could create a mechanism to allow for the orderly dissolution of that relationship, in case it fails, where the assets are split in an orderly fashion. Guys like OP are the reason you should never have a child without being married. He's deliberately making sure that if he ever leaves she's absolutely fucked. He's setting up a financially abusive situation for the mother of his child on purpose. People like this shouldn't be allowed to have kids. I think that as long as we're together we both own the house and live in it, but in case we ever split up, the house should end up belonging to the person who paid for it. Who will pay for the house? This is an interesting question. If your salary covers the mortgage and your girlfriend stays home to take care of your child, what is the worth of her contribution to your family? Will your girlfriend, by contributing thousands of dollars worth of childcare per year, also be paying for the house with her work? And what if something happens and she ends up making more money than him for a period of time, or indefinitely? Will they renegotiate the terms of ownership every time they have a salary change? I'm of the opinion that joint tenancy is usually the way to go, barring each party coming in with a significant down payment of their own money. Plus, if they're not getting married but planning to have a family and live like they're married, having the right of survivorship is going to be important for protection of the remaining party. And having undivided interest in it will allow them to both feel invested 100%. As a relatively new father, I can attest to the fact that you are grossly undervaluing the short and long-term sacrifice your wife is making. What her body goes through over the next couple of years to raise your child is worth whatever additional percentage you pay on the mortgage. I'd strongly consider thinking of your partnership more holistically and less financially. This is not a good way to start the next chapter in your life. First off, take morals out of it. This boils down to financial values. I am also going to assume you two are in 100% agreement of no marriage ever. From her perspective, she is sacrificing the ability to advance her career by having children, at least for some amount of time. It's biologically impossible for you to split that duty with her. So, while I get the notion that you believe you should get a percentage equal to what you pay, she is left without much legal recourse, alimony, if you two separate. Are you two planning to use daycare for the child so she can still work? What is her long-term plan for financial security? I think it would make sense to meet with an estate planning, family lawyer and explore the options your jurisdiction recognizes. Reddit can talk about their concepts of fair, but what you really need is legal protection for you and for her. This is akin to a prenuptial agreement. If you ultimately cannot agree, then maybe you should find a house you can afford outright and then decide what contribution is fair for her to live there rent-free. In that scenario, she could save for a retirement account in lieu of building equity in real property. Both have their risks, as COVID has taught us. Also, friendly reminder that women bear the lion's share of unpaid labor, childcare, and household management, even when both partners work outside the home. And conversely, even when women outearn their partners, their average unpaid labor time goes up even more. Women also average less downtime than men. So just because you earn more financially doesn't mean you are the one putting in the most work, or that you are the one making all the sacrifices. A 50-50 split is fair. If you really do consider yourselves a family, what's the problem with splitting the house 50-50? She is giving you a child and her unpaid labor for childcare, but you're only focused on what she earns. The split only matters in the event of a breakup anyways, so are you planning to get some kind of legal agreement in place about this before getting the house? If yes, then the moral and fair thing would be for you to pay for each of you to get legal counsel before your younger, pregnant partner potentially signs any of her rights away. If I were her, I'd be feeling pretty hurt and worried by your position on this. You have way more power in this dynamic and your penny pinching isn't a good look. If you really are going to call her family without the legal protections that marriage offers in many jurisdictions, then actually treat her like family. Are you looking to be in partnership? Honestly, I feel bad for the mother of your child. She is getting screwed. It sounds like you don't value what she brings to the relationship and prefer to value financial contributions. Her financial growth will take a hit by having the baby. I am sure you are a nice man, but if I was her friend or she was my daughter, I would tell her to not move forward with someone who is saying right in the beginning he does not want to create an equal partnership. My husband earns 3 times what I earn. This last year, I have been out of work for 9 months due to a brain tumor surgery and then COVID-19 shut down. My husband has been carrying me for sure. That being said, as partners, we have created more wealth this year. I may not make as much as him, but I care for the house, manage our investments and finances. I bought every Christmas present for his daughter. He realizes his life is better, because while I don't bring in the big money, I do bring so much. I am concerned for your girlfriend. If you guys got married, she would actually be protected. You don't sound like you have much interest in providing for the mother of your child. My dad always told me the importance of partnership. I am so glad he did. You guys may want to do some couples therapy to come up with rules before this gets bad. It will get bad. When you aren't on the same page with money, it never goes well. If you read his follow-up comments, they split household chores 50-50, so this really boils down to the career advancement value she loses as a consequence of the third trimester and any maternity leave. Does that necessarily equate to 30% of this real estate purchase? I'm not a CPA or real estate appraiser, so I have no idea. But, the general concept that because she's out of work for a couple of months that he should, for all time, pay 30% more than her and just cede that value to her also misses the mark. Your situation due to brain surgery and COVID is not what is being contemplated here. Partners, even strictly business partners, do cover each other when the need arises. But, that does not mean one side has to carry that burden the entire length of the relationship. Where are your suggestions for what she could be doing outside of the pregnancy term to carry more of her weight in this relationship? If you believe it's incumbent on loving partners to do everything they can to add to their partner's well-being, then that has to be a two-way street. He is not taking advantage of her. In fact, he has been paying 80-20 before her pregnancy. It's not his job to provide for the mother of his child any more than it is her job to provide for the father of her child. This is a partnership and both are capable of doing more. The goal is compromise, not wholesale concession. This is sticky. Personally, were I giving your girlfriend the advice, I'd tell her that she needs to sit down with you and come to a fair agreement as to how you guys are going to share the financial responsibilities going forward, especially as you're not getting married. And honestly, I'd tell her that if she feels you aren't serious about her being an equal financial partner with you in this relationship, meaning that the money you both earn is family money, regardless of who earns what, that she should reconsider the relationship entirely. By having a child together, she is at a serious disadvantage being the significantly lower earner. Based on what you wrote, she is going to be the primary caregiver and potentially have a part-time job. Should you guys stay together, then sure, that's all great. However, the realistic answer is that a separation, breakup is a totally possible outcome. This is true whether or not you're married, but marriage provides legal protections that she doesn't currently have. If you don't want to split the ownership of the house with her 50-50, then personally I think you should be paying her child support so she can have her own backup asset in the event that she needs to be setting up her own household in the future. We are unmarried and are not registered officially in any way, although she is pregnant with our first daughter. We don't ever plan on getting married but do consider ourselves to be a family. The rational thing might be for your to be a SOM after your child is born, because it doesn't sound like her income from a job would pay for child care. The real issue, unfortunately, is it does not appear she meets your standards for someone you could trust to be a SOM and lifelong partner. What she understands, and you may not, is you need to make a choice when your child is born, either go all in with her, or break up and choose to co-parent. The rational thing might be for your to be a SOM after your child is born, because it doesn't sound like her income from a job would pay for child care. If the relationship were 100% certain to last until death? Absolutely. In the real world, where he could decide in 5 years that he was sick of paying her bills, and break up with her. Not having had an income for those 5 years will make life really hard on her at that point. The moral and fair thing to do would be to consider yourselves a family unit and the house for the betterment of that unit. She will be providing the unpaid labor of childcare and presumably you love her? I'm not sure why you are choosing to not get married, but I'm having a child together. You have nonetheless chosen to bind yourself to this woman for the rest of your life, so you may as well stop with the mine versus hers and start thinking in terms of ours. I don't know if I have an answer about what is equitable, but I can say that if you were married and you bought a house, you would each have 50% ownership in it, regardless of income levels. Are you a team, or are you separate individuals who are temporarily together to raise a kid? She probably views you two as a team. You seem to view it as a temporary arrangement. If you're not going to be a long-term team, you probably shouldn't buy a house together. Looking at the facts, it seems like you pretty severely undervalue your girlfriend's soon-to-be extensive non-monetary contributions. This issue is creating quite a bit of tension between us, and I would love some help on how to settle it fairly for both sides. The bottom line is that in relationships, you can be in the right, but still not win. It doesn't matter who is right and who is wrong in the court of public opinion. This is between you and your girlfriend, who is carrying your child. You have a decision to make. Take a gamble, and it is a gamble that you two will make it long-term and go 50-50 equity with her on the house, or insist on your way and irreparably damage the relationship to where you can virtually guarantee it will fail. She will not forget your decision given carrying and giving birth to you two's child is the moment of truth in your relationship. If you consider each other a family, then why act like you are not in a committed relationship? Maybe it's my ethnicity and religion talking, but in my parents' marriage they always shared expenses. They have a joint account and bills are paid. You are going into buying a house thinking, if we split up, I take 80% and she'll take 20%. That kind of mindset is setting you up for a failed relationship. It may have worked while you rented, but will it work with a house? Probably not. I suggest not buying a home. That way, if you ever split, it's not messy. It baffles me that you would even consider buying a home with that mindset. I personally would leave a guy like this. I get it, he is a software engineer and he is the one that pays the bills. The fact that he won't marry her says a lot. I know, marriage isn't for everyone, but then he shouldn't be reproducing by making more illegitimate children. Not marrying her leaves them high and dry if something happens to him. She may not work, but she is giving her time, her life and her body to a selfish dude that is capable of coldly illegitimize her time and effort into the relationship. This is a dude that is calculating how he could take as much from the mother of his child if they ever separated as if her time and investment into the relationship didn't mean a thing. She should rethink her involvement. No dick in the world is worth living with an enemy. Fuck this guy in the face. In my opinion, if you're in a long-term permanent relationship, whether married or not, don't you consider yourself part of the same team. Your partner will be contributing far more value than any money could buy. She will be the primary caregiver of your child and the homemaker. As I see it, you're in this together, and although she contributes less financially, she'll be contributing a lot more of her time, and as such relieving you of any worry or stress regarding your home life, allowing you to better apply yourself at work. If she wants 50% of the house, then she should marry you before you buy the house together. This ensures that no matter how much she pays towards the house, she is entitled to 50% of its worth. Or thereabouts, depending on theoretical divorce proceedings. If you aren't going to marry her, then it doesn't really make sense to jointly purchase anything together. Just buy things separately and let each other use them. Sounds like you could afford an entire house yourself, so why don't you just buy it on your own, without any of her money or without her name on the mortgage or deed? To make this fair to you both, you could have her pay a small bit of rent, something between $0 and half of what she can afford, make it a very good deal for her. Also a generous written agreement that if anything is ever to go sour between you two, where you offer to help pay for half her move-out costs and several months to find a new place. Basically, I think her asking for 50% of the house is like her asking to be married. Does she want to be married? It sounds like she does. Like she wants to be your equal partner in everything and consider your money and assets as ours. Do you want that too? Then just marry her. If not, it's silly to ask her to have a 20% stake in the house when you can easily afford it yourself. Just buy the house on your own and let her live there for super cheap or even free. She's the mother of your child, so you should make sure you never force her to stretch her finances or force her into homelessness. But if you won't marry her, don't ask her to make big financial commitments like a mortgage. Even if only 20%. I agree with all of this except the wanting 50% means she wants marriage. I mean by that logic, he wants to buy a house asset together, so he wants marriage. They want a baby, which is shared responsibility for 18 years, so they want marriage. Etc. etc. I think you can want those things and not marriage, as more complicated legally as it makes them. I agree though, splitting differently than 50-50 is just troublesome, even the pay her a salary for being some suggestion. The best thing really is to buy it outright and charge her a small rent, at least from what I can tell from the post. I've been in a similar situation. Partner and I have an income gap, not as much as yours, but still a significant gap, and neither of us is low wage, part-time, temp. When we were looking, we made sure that we were looking at properties where I could still contribute 50% of the cost. We wrote ourselves up an agreement with the assistance of a lawyer that basically stated that we each pay half the cost, and in the event of breakup, selling, we would split the proceeds of a sale 50-50. That helps us to keep everything neat and agreeable. Once you have a child, it is unlikely your girlfriend will ever be able to increase her income to the same level as yours. Try making the big bucks as a software engineer when you have to work around daycare, a sick child, school meetings, homework, laundry, 2 a.m. diaper changings and feedings and housework on top of that. I'm guessing you will be splitting the childcare, child rearing costs 80/20, but it is impossible to split your time 80/20. Even being on maternity leave or bed rest has cut into her earning potential. You do not seem like you and her are a team, but are roommates and one got pregnant. Okay, I'm in the US and I was reading your question. So I just thought I would give you my 5 cent worth of options. First, you two have been together for YRS. Since you make more money than her, I'm assuming she does most of the housework. You know, cooking, cleaning, laundry, the things that have to be done. Now she's pregnant with your child and you still feel she is only worth 20% of the house where she is going to live in with you, her common-law husband, and your child, possibly later children. So if she was working full-time as a housekeeper, maid, cook, daycare provider, how much would she be making a day a week? I bet she would be bringing in more than you. Her job is just as important as yours. She's working it 7 days and 24 hours a day. Just an idea. If you're a family, you're a family. The work with the child will absolutely not be equal. How many articles have been written during COVID about the impact on women with children? I assume you're going to want a home based off your income, not hers? How is that fair? Either you're looking in your bracket and having a higher mortgage that disallows her to be an equal partner, or you bring your expectations down to her income level where you can be equal partners. That's the difference between a girlfriend and a family. When you're a family, you're building a future together. I think if you feel you need to have some higher share, talked about a 45/55% split, or each bot if you get 40% and the other 20% is for your child. I think your partner is right to get upset based off the fact that they aren't an equal partner and need to be. They are having your child. This is what partnership is and what family is. My BF and I also don't want to get married, and we have 2 daughters. We bought a house together, and we're each paying half. Our contract is such that if one of us dies, the other gets the house outright, without having to go through probate. This is for the stability of the girls, and for their financial future. I think it's called joint tenants. With regards to ownership, you could probably buy a house she can afford, then split ownership 50-50. Another fair option would be to each contribute what you can to the mortgage, and when you sell, you each get your contributions back, and you split the real estate appreciation 50-50. Long term, there are 2 options. You two split in the first 4 to 7 years, and then this will matter, or you end up living in that house for the rest of your lives, and this discussion will be irrelevant. If you end up splitting, I think you shouldn't have a problem buying her out, since you're the higher earner and she won't have much equity due to short ownership. At the end of the day, you will always make that money back. I'm 43, and I've been getting richer every year for the past 15 or so. Some things set me back, yes. I could have even more money, but even with the money I have right now, I'm very comfortable. You'd be better off going to some financial subreddits, financial independence, for example, and learn how to make long-term investments. 20 years from now, this house will represent 10 to 20% of your portfolio, and even if you give some of it to your girlfriend, the other assets will more than make up for that loss. She is absolutely right, it should be split 50-50 no matter what the income discrepancy is. I personally think it's odd you're taking off the table the idea of marriage forever, but hey, that's up to you and her to decide if that works for your circumstance. However, I see it from her perspective and would want to split everything 50-50. Home, investments, savings, expenses, etc. In the past, I was married to someone that made about half of what I did. Upon our divorce, we split everything 50-50 due to the law and what's fair. She helped me occasionally face the day. She supported me through all of my career moves, deaths in family, pets. We laughed hundreds of thousands of times. We had a rewarding intimate relationship, and us cohabitating saved us money because we shared expenses. How do you put a price on all that? You can't. I don't want to make judgments since I don't obviously know you, but you seem to be too focused on money and want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to be able to have a woman carry a child and give birth. Then at any time you want to be able to hit the eject button and claim the house and the majority of savings. You ain't no single tech bro anymore. You done impregnated her.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video. And if you are new, subscribe and click on the bell icon.